What's up, guys? My name is Class. I'm an independent professional wrestler, clinical psychologist, and one half of the greatest tag team in the history of the world, the Pretty City Express. Question: have you ever gotten informed that you'll be having a big match coming up for a new promotion that you've tried to been working for? Ever had a big test coming up, a job interview, a date, anything like that? And in the moment, you're excited, you're confident, and then it becomes game time, and you start getting that feeling inside your stomach. Your mind starts racing. You start questioning yourself, questioning the moment, and let it get on top of you a little bit. Yes, probably, and so have I. So today what I want to talk a little bit about is handling performance anxiety and performing under pressure, and some tips and tricks for how to do that. So the first thing within wrestling that comes to mind for me, obviously my first match I ever had was really nerve-wracking and really difficult. But the one that really sticks out is the first match I ever had at PCW Ultra. This was a promotion I'd been going to and helping out, and it was, if you're not familiar, please look up PCW Ultra. It was one of the biggest promotions in the independent promotions in the country, and it was cooking. And I'd gone a few times and I helped out, so I was familiar with the process and how big of a deal it was and the type of talent that was on those shows. And I remember exactly where I was when I got the call saying that I was booked on the show. And in the moment, I was like, oh my gosh, finally, yes, let's go. I was stoked. And then it comes the day of, and the nerves start setting in. I remember, man, I got some breakfast down, and the Ultra days are long days. So coming from Arizona, we usually left pretty early in the morning, like at 9 or 10, and the show didn't start until like 8 o'clock at night. And so I got breakfast in, and then the nerves set in, and my stomach started going a little bit, and I had trouble getting anything down for the rest of the day. And it only kind of progressively got worse and worse and worse. And I was excited. This was like going to be the biggest moment of my wrestling career to that point. And man, I put my gear on, I got the robe on, I was looking great. And just the thought of walking through those curtains was absolutely nerve-wracking. And so the reason that this is important, and I think this topic is relevant to everyone, is it's really easy for us to let the moment get on top of us. It's really easy to let that voice in the back of your head start questioning things. And this is kind of a theme throughout this series, right? Is controlling your mind, and then you can control the situation. And so why it's different in a wrestling context is it's easy to start thinking about all the people that are going to be out there, the pressure you're putting on yourself, how you want to do well in front of the crowd, how you want to do well for the promotion, how you want to take the next step in your career. And when you start letting that leak in and think about all the things that you're putting pressure on yourself for, it can get really nerve-wracking. And that's like a natural human thing. Again, with a test. I know I've taken a lot of tests in my life, like the board exam, tons of exams throughout my high school and college years and grad school, and et cetera, et cetera. You think about what it would mean if you don't do well. You think about what it would mean if you do well, and how much you want to make that happen. And so it's really, really natural to let that stuff get on top of you and let it leak in, because it's just our mind trying to essentially protect us, right? We don't want to be, for lack of a better term, delusional and just assume that we're always going to win no matter what. Like I've said in the previous episodes, failure is going to happen, and we have to know how to deal with that. But obviously we don't want to fail, and that's what makes it really, really challenging. And so part of the benefit of learning to manage performance anxiety and learning to handle pressure and excel under pressure is, how do I manage my mind to best control the situation, and how do I best put my first foot forward and excel in these situations. And so there's a couple different approaches to this. There's like in the moment, and then there's pre-preparation. So a couple things you can do in the moment. For me personally, I'm really big on controlling your breath. if we don't control our breath, like if we're going into an anxiety attack or if we're going into a panic attack or anything like that, one of the first things that goes is your breath and the control of your breath. So when we go into like an anxious state, whether it's because of anxiety, frustration, anger, etc., we are starting to tap into that sympathetic nervous system, or fight or flight, which you probably heard of. With fight or flight, that's our body literally preparing for action. And so when that happens, there's a bunch of things happening. One of the things we notice is our breath changing. So when you go into that fight or flight system, we start having short and shallow breathing through our chest, and then our muscles tense and our heart rate speeds up, and it literally, again, prepares us to escape danger. That's the whole basis of that fight or flight system. And so to best control that, the easiest way we know how to do that is by controlling your breath. And so if you're in the middle of a match, if you're in the middle of a test, if you're on a date, if you're in a job interview, one of the things you can really focus on is learning to control that breath and bring your breath into your belly and into your abdomen, and try to really slow it and smooth it out. That's going to keep your heart rate lower, and that's going to then keep you in a better state of mind to like think through what you need to do. And so that's where I always have people, what I have people start with is controlling your breath. So again, if you're in the moment and you notice your mind starting to run away and the moment's getting on top of you, try and take a couple breaths deep into your belly, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Another thing that works for people is having like a key word or something, and this is something that you might find over time, is like, you know, it could be like, I don't know, for example, lock in, let's go, come on, anything like that, that kind of like snaps you out of it and grounds you a little bit. For example, with tennis players, I'm a big tennis fan. I like watching tennis, and a lot of tennis players, you'll see them shout the "come on" after they hit a big shot. That helps like fire them up, helps them lock in, and helps them focus a little bit and kind of like stay focused on the task. So again, in the moment, breath, taking a couple deep breaths, having a word that you're using over time that's the same word or a phrase that helps you lock in and ground you. When it comes to like preparing for the moment, I'm really, really big on preparing as much as possible so that I don't really have to think as much. I can just execute when the time comes. And so for wrestling, I have a pretty structured pre-match routine that I go through every match. And I had to figure this out over time, because with that first Ultra match, I was like, this isn't going to be helpful if this is the way I am before every single match. I need to learn how to manage that and how to control that so then I can be prepared, be in my best state of mind, and execute the best way I need to. And so the benefit of the pre-match routine for me is it adds a level of comfortability and familiarity. And so when I feel comfortable, when I feel familiar, I'm going to be more calm. And so my pre-match routine, it involves a few things. I always do at least 100 air squats. I get the pump up cord and I get my upper body warmed up. I do, Devin and I are big on hot stuff, so we get hot stuffed up, and I put a little Vicks in my nose. I have a Rice Krispie treat, and then I have a piece of gum. All of those things help me get like basically the dominoes fall in a row, and they help me get just warmed up, and I conditioned my mind to know that when I do these things, boom, that ends with game time. And so when I'm going through that, I enjoy doing it, and it helps me. And so it makes me feel comfortable. It makes me feel familiar. And so when I've got all those things done, then I know I feel ready mentally and physically. So what's your pre-match routine? What's your pre-test routine? What's your pre-interview routine? Because if you're going to do all those things, then you're probably going to feel a little more comfortable, a little more familiar in an unfamiliar situation. The other thing that I'm really, really big on is visualization. So this I try to use in all aspects of my life. I've used it on tests. I've used it on interviews is a big one. And I certainly use it in wrestling. And so when I'm like in the car driving to a show, I'll kind of visualize what I want the night to look like and how I want it to go. And obviously things are going to change and it's not going to go exactly how you think it is. But that helps me when I'm in the moment and it feels really big. I've already been there once in my mind and I can know how to work through that and I feel a little bit more comfortable. And so I'll do this in the car on the way to shows. If I'm having trouble sleeping, I'll lay there in bed and just visualize something I want to accomplish, and that's really helpful for me. These things aren't necessarily going to be helpful for everyone. You might be more prone to doing visualization. You might be more prone to doing like a pre-match routine. But the point is, try and control what you can control and do a couple things that help you feel more comfortable, help you feel more familiar in the moments so those moments don't get on top of you. And so these are things that I figured out really work for me, but I've also done a lot of work with sports psychology and working with high-level athletes in my practice, and these are things that the literature and athletes at the top level are doing too, and that's kind of how I originally found out about them, so then I implemented them in my life. This isn't just me talking out of my ass and saying, try these things. This is stuff that works for me and also works for very high-level athletes and has been supported by the literature. So managing performance anxiety and handling pressure, this is an important thing because we're all going to be under pressure at some point in our lives. There's a very good chance of it. And that pressure is not going to change. The bright lights are always going to be there. The situations are always going to be there. But if we do things on the front end to set ourselves up to handle that, that's how we overcome that. And so with this, it's really, really important to just take a little time, control what you can control, and see what happens and see how it improves. And it's going to be a process, right? Like, I hope that anyone watching this, if you try some of this stuff, it works the first time. There's a good chance it won't, and that's okay. And it's going to feel a little goofy. It's going to feel a little unfamiliar. But if it feels that, then you know you're doing it right, and you know you're onto something. And over time, you'll learn what works best for you and how to then master those skills. So I hope this was helpful. Let me know in the comments what you guys do to handle performance anxiety and handle pressure and excel under pressure. I'd love to hear about it. These are just my ideas of what I use and what I've taught people from my experience. So tune in next week, next Sunday for episode number 4 of The Mental Side of Wrestling. And again, let me know in the comments what you guys think and what you do to handle performance anxiety and pressure.